Now let's look at more examples under the rule of positivity and negativity in options. The rule of positivity, don't forget, the rule of positivity and negativity in options. That is, in your 4 options, what are the options that are positive? What are the options that are negative? Now let's look at more examples that I have here. It says number 2, example 2. Don't forget we've used that earlier example as example 1. Then example 2 here now. Although is yes, although with is yes, with is yes in public office, a fund is father's advice invaluable. That is the underlying word, invaluable. That is, we have to look for the words that have the same meaning or that is nearly similar in meaning to this underlying word. Now let's look at the options. The question is JAMB, is from JAMB 2015. JAMB 2015, number 28 precisely. Now let's look at the options. Option A, priceless. Option B, hopeless. Option C, helpful. Option D, worthless. Now let's look at this question. Now let's say we don't have or know the dictionary meaning of this word, underlined word. No, I told us that number 1 thing is knowing the dictionary meaning of your underlined word. Then number 2, using your sentence meaning. That is, can your sentence give you a clue to the underlined word? Now these are underlined word. Let's assume we don't know the meaning. Or let me say, I don't know the meaning. You don't know the meaning. Now, the sentence, can it give us a clue? Okay, now we are under the rule of positivity and negativity in options. That is, what are the options that are negative? What are the options that are positive in nature? Now, let's look at our options. Priceless, that is a positive option. That is something that is so valuable that you cannot pay enough money to get it. It is priceless. Then option B, hopeless, that is, there is no hope. That is a negative option. There is no hope. Negative, positive. Then hopeful, that is a positive option too. Hopeful, that is, you are optimistic about something. That's a positive option too. Worthless is also a negative option. Now you discover that we have 2 options that are positive. We have 2 options that are what? That are negative. Now this is where you will have problem. Why? Because when you have 2 options that are positive, 2 options that are negative, you might not be able to decide which of these options is similar to the underlying word. You understand me? But in the case that you have 1 option that is positive and others are negative, or 1 option that is negative and others are positive, you discover that from the example we used earlier, you discover that one is easy. It's very easy for you to know the opposite or the synonyms or the synonyms of that underlined word. It will be very easy. But in the case that you have 2 options that is positive, 2 options that is negative, problem might arise. Now you don't have to panic. That is, there is a particular options that is demanding you to know that is serving as the similar meaning to the underlined word. And I will tell you that in most cases, when your underlying word is positive, then definitely the option that you need to take for it under synonyms must also be positive. That is, they must be in line. We are actually talking about similar in meaning. Now let's look at our sentence. Can our sentence give us a clue? Although with his years in public office, he found his father's advice invaluable. You discover that this sentence can actually give me a clue to the meaning of this underlying word. Why? Because the sentence itself is a positive sentence. That is, when you are getting an advice from someone, you discover that that is a good thing. Getting advice from your father is a good thing. Now, telling us that this word is actually a positive word, invaluable. That is, when something is valuable, the meaning of invaluable actually means something that is valuable, something that is worthwhile, something that is what you getting, or something that you cannot pay for. Now, let's look at the options. Priceless, hopeless, helpful, worthless. I'll tell you that these two options can never be similar to the underlined word. They are wrong. So our answer is between priceless as and hopeful. And there's a particular word that captures the meaning of this, which is what? Priceless. That is, you cannot pay enough for it. You cannot pay enough for your father's advice. You discover that. So your options are very important in the sense that you need to group them. Which of the options are positive? Which of the options are what? Are negative. Now let's take one more example under the rule of positivity and negativity. Let's take one more example. It says, example 3 now. Example 3. Now let's look at it. It says, the woman acted courageously. Courageously is our underlined word when she was attacked. When she was attacked by the robbers. This question is from JAMB 2013 number 33, sorry. Now let's look at the options. Option A says slowly, B fearlessly, C timidly. Then option D carelessly. Now let's apply our rules of positivity and negativity in the option. Now this is our underlined word, courageously. Now let's look at our options. What are the options that are positive? What are the options that are what? That are negative? Slowly, negative. Fearlessly, positive. That is, it doesn't fear. It doesn't have any iota of fearness. Timidly, negative. Carelessly, negative. You discover that we have 3 options that are negative here: slowly, timidly, and carelessly. You discover that in this situation, you don't have to panic. Why? Because you've interpreted some of your options that are the same. 3 of them are the same, are negative. Then this will ever be your answer. This will be what? Fearlessly, that is courageously. This is what? Your answer, assuming you don't know the meaning of this word. So the rule of positivity and negativity actually works. It works enough. It works a lot under synonyms and what? And antonyms. So our answer here is what? Fearlessly, not timidly, not carelessly, not slowly. So that is how the rule of positivity and negativity works. Now let's look at this examples, this set of examples again. You see, we've been discussing on those examples we've been using earlier on. They're actually words that are closely and nearly closely in meaning, that is synonyms. But this one now, I want us to go to the other parts of this segment. You know, I told us earlier on that synonyms and antonyms, that is similar, closely, or nearly similar in meaning, or closely or nearly similar in meaning, they are synonyms. But in the case of opposite, that is words that are opposite in meaning, closely opposite in meaning, they have what? Antonyms. Now let's look at these questions. Michael is thinking, but his brother is dash. Now this kind of instruction can be given under antonyms. That is, you will be asked to provide the opposite of the underlying word to fill the gap in the expression. So you can ask and have an instruction actually under antonyms in this way, in the sense that you are meant to provide the opposite of such underlying words to complete the blank in the what? In the sentence. So don't forget our hints. Don't forget our techniques. Number one, I said knowing the dictionary meaning of a word will help you to do what? To answer question under synonyms and antonyms. And I said number two, the context, the sentence meaning. That is, there are some sentence that will give you a clue to the information or to the meaning of such underlined words. Then lastly, I said using the rules of positivity and negativity in option. You see, I told us that that applies to the options. That is, in the options, what are the options that are positive and what are the options that are negative? Now you can decide your answer with knowing all of these options by grouping them under those ones that are positive and those ones that are what? Negative. Now let's answer this question. Michael is stingy. Stingy in the underlying word. Now I believe a lot of us we know the meaning of stingy, but let's just say, let's roll out our mind as if we don't really know the meaning of stingy. You know, I told us earlier that situation where you don't know the meaning of your underlying word, do not panic. You can still get your answer by using your sentence or through your rules of positivity and negativity. Now let's answer the question. Generous, kind, human, hospitable. These are our options. Now let's say we don't know the meaning of stingy, assuming. Now look at the options. Now look at the sentence. Can the sentence give us a clue to the meaning of stingy? Michael is stingy, but his brother is dash. This sentence doesn't give us a clue to the meaning of stingy. Let's say we don't know the meaning of stingy. It doesn't give us the clue to the meaning. Now let's look at our option. Yes, let's use the rule of positivity and negativity. What are the options here that are negative and what are the options here that are what? Positive. Generous, positive option. Kind, positive option. Human, positive option. Hospitable, positive option. You discover that all of these options, they are what? They are positive. This implies that this question is actually demanding that we need to know the meaning of this word. We need to know the dictionary meaning of this underlined word, which is stingy. And thank God, the word is not too difficult for us to understand. Now, stingy. Now, what do we mean by stingy? We all know what is stingy. That is when someone doesn't have the mind or doesn't have the habit of giving. You are not the type that do give things out. That is stinginess. Being niggard, being malevolent. That is what we mean by stingy. Now look at the options. You discover that most of these options, they are close to what can mean the opposite of stingy. Generous, kind, humane, hospitable. But there's a particular word that can give us the opposite of this stinginess, which is what? Generous. Yes, generous. Generous. Now let's look at the number two question, the number two example. Now this first example is from WAEC 2017, number one precisely. Then example two. The college was worried about Chungik's garrulous tendencies. The college was worried about Chungik's garrulous tendencies. Now let's look at our underlined words here. Garrulous. Yes, I believe and I know that a lot of us we don't know the meaning of garrulous. Now let's look at our sentence. Now with assuming that we don't have the dictionary meaning of this word. Now, can the sentence give us a clue to the meaning of the underlined word? Now let's look at it. The college was worried about Chungik's garrulous tendency. Now this sentence gives me the clue to the meaning of this word. Why? Because of this word, worried. Now you discover that when you are worried about something, that thing will actually be a negative thing. Yes, I can say that, because what you are worried about will always be a negative something. You cannot be worried about something positive. You understand me? Now, given us that this garrulous is a positive word, it's a negative word. Now let's look at our options. Quarrelsome, loquacious, reticent, outspoken. Now, what are the options that are negative and what are the options that are positive? Quarrelsome is a negative word. Loquacious is also a negative word. Outspoken is not actually a negative word, it's a positive word. Then reticent is also a positive word. Now, and we are meant to look for the opposite, meaning that the options that you will be given to this negative word must be positive option. Yes. Now let's look at it. These two options can never be it. In fact, loquacious is also the meaning of garrulous. That is, when someone is a garrulous person, that is, you are a talker. You talk too much. Somebody that talk. Now, what is the opposite of garrulous? Reticent. Reticence means silence, serene, decorum. So our options here, the best option here is what? Is reticent. You can see application of your rules of positivity and negativity in the option is very, very important. It's very, very important. Now let's look at the last example. Don't forget, I've always told us we shouldn't forget under what instruction we are answering. That is it words that are closely or nearly opposite in meaning, or words that are closely similar in meaning? We shouldn't forget that. Now let's look at this last example. Example 3. Example 3. It says the young girl was taken aback. Aback is the underlined word. By her father's gifts of a car. Now aback is the underlined word. Now let's look at the option. Now this question is from JAMB 2016, number 31 actually. Then let's look at the option. Options A, that is, we have to look for the word that is opposite in meaning to this underlined word aback. Now let's look at the options. Option A said shocked. B, unmoved. C, surprise. Then D, nonplussed. Now let's look at the underlined word, which is aback. Now let's say we don't know the dictionary meaning of this word, and I told us that when you know the dictionary meaning of a word, you won't stress yourself too much under synonyms and antonyms. Now let's assume we don't know the meaning of this word. Now, can the sentence give us a clue? The young girl was taken aback by her father's gift of a car. Now this sentence is giving us a clue to what this word actually means. You know, when you are giving a gift, you know your reaction, you know your emotional reaction. Now you need to take a vivid look at your sentence, interpret it, then check if it can actually give us a clue or give you a clue to the underlying word. Now this sentence is actually giving me a clue to this underlying word, because the sentence says a girl was given a gift by her father. Now you know the reaction of when you're given a gift. Now it's telling me that this word aback, it means surprise. You know, these are the emotions you can have when you are given a gift: surprise, astounded, amazed, and all of that. Now let's look at the option. Can we apply the rule of positivity and negativity in these options? What are the options that are negative? What are the options that are positive? Shocked, unmoved, surprise, non-stop. Now I bet this with you that this shock and surprise, they are positive and they are together. That is, you are shocked, you are surprised. You know, when you something comes to you in an emergency way, you don't expect it, then you are shocked, you are surprised. Now unmoved, that is, you are not surprised. It doesn't even take anything to you. It doesn't even mean anything to you. Non-stop, nonplussed, that is, it doesn't even apply to your impulse or nerves. You understand me? So these two options, they are together. Now what are we to look for? The opposite of this word. Now these two options can never be the opposite of this. Why? Because they have the same thing, they have the same meaning with aback. Aback means surprised, shocked, astonished, stunned, dumbfounded, and all of that. Now these two options is what we have left that could mean the opposite. That is, you are not moved. If you look at this option, nonplussed is not having a correct opposite to this word. Now the best opposite to this word is what? Unmoved. That is, she wasn't moved. That is the opposite. So in answering question, you see, you discover that in answering question under synonyms and antonyms is very simple. If you can apply your 3 techniques that I've taken us through in this lecture, that is, number 1, knowing your dictionary meaning. Number 2, interpreting your sentence, that is the sentence meaning of your expression. Then lastly, the rule of positivity and negativity in the what? In the options. So do well to follow us, subscribe on our channel, like, share for more video. We'll be bringing more examples, but I just decided to stop here now. More examples will be coming up from past questions and we will relate together with them under synonyms and what and antonyms. See you on our next video. Thank you.